This has been all over the blogosphere today, everybody. I know a lot of you're thinking, I don't really make any political decisions ever until I hear what the New York Times is doing first. That's what I'm waiting for. I say, what is the New York Times up to? Then and only then can I make a decision. Well, folks, the New York Times has issued their endorsement for this 2020 primary. And check it out. Boom. Look at this. Here we go. Oh, wait, no. Let's start at the top, because this is real dramatic. In a break with convention, the editorial board has chosen to endorse two separate Democratic candidates for president, Amy Klobuchar and Elizabeth Warren. In a total break with convention, we are endorsing not one, but two moderates who plan on doing nothing to challenge the status quo. Groundbreaking, New York Times. Look at that. And then they have this picture where there's a purple background and their faces are blue. Look at that. Blue, as in what water is supposed to look like, but it won't look like because both of them are cool with fracking. All right, the Democrats' best choices for president, according to the New York Times political board. Let's see what they have to say about this. American voters must choose between three sharply divergent visions for the future. The incumbent president, Donald Trump, is clear about where he is guiding the Republican Party: white nativism at home and America first unilateralism abroad, brazen corruption, escalating culture wars, a judiciary stacked with ideologues, and the veneration of a mythological past where the hierarchy in American society was defined and unchallenged. On the Democratic side, an essential debate is underway between two visions that may define the future of the party and perhaps the nation. Some in the party view President Trump as an aberration and believe that a return to a more sensible America is possible. Then there are those who believe President Trump was the product of political and economic systems so rotten that they must be replaced. I fall into that latter category. Donald Trump is like a pimple on your forehead. That's what Donald Trump is. He's like a zit on somebody's forehead. It's gross, it's disgusting, and you really don't want it around. But a lot of other stuff caused it as well. And if you pop that pimple, that's all well and good. But if you don't do something about all the other shit that caused that pimple in the first place, the pimple's going to come back and the next one's going to be worse. All right, so anyway, the Democratic primary contest is often portrayed as a tussle between moderates and progressives. To some extent, that's true. Other times, there's just no progressives. They're like, to some extent, that's true. Yeah, sometimes there's actually a progressive option. Other times, there just isn't one entirely. Other times, the establishment does their job to make sure there's no progressive option out there. All right, so blah, blah, blah. Nearly any of them would be the most progressive president in decades on issues like healthcare, the economy, and government's allocations of resources. Where they differ most significantly is not the what, but the how, and whether they believe the country's institutions and norms are up to the challenge of the moment. That paragraph is pure, unfiltered bullshit. They only differ on the how. Basically, what they're trying to tell you is that Amy Klobuchar, who plans on doing nothing about healthcare, who plans on doing nothing about rising college debt, who plans on doing nothing about the environment, and Elizabeth Warren, who just copies Bernie's plans, waters them down, and then waffles on them constantly. They're telling you the only difference is the how, whereas Bernie has concrete plans and says how he's going to pay for them and says the urgency with which they need to be instituted and has been consistent on them for, 40 years or so. They're saying that the only difference is the how. So one person is going to give you healthcare, the other one isn't. Like, it's just a matter of how. You can still get something done by not doing anything. Hey, are you going to do this thing? No. Okay, it'll still get done though, right? Yeah. You're just not going to do it? That's right. That's what they're trying to tell you. All right, many Democratic voters are concerned first and foremost about who can beat Donald Trump. This sounds familiar, doesn't it? But with a crowded field, okay. Doesn't this sound familiar? Doesn't this sound familiar in 2016? Hey, we know Bernie sounds outstanding. Bernie sounds great. But he'll be the next McGovern, even though poll after poll indicates that wouldn't be the case, even though he has more individual donors than any other candidate, indicating that that won't be the case, even though he incited a movement behind him, indicating that wouldn't be the case. He certainly wouldn't be the next McGovern. But we still want you to believe he'd be the next McGovern. So even though he sounds great, we got to focus on who can beat Trump. And that person who can beat Trump is Hillary Clinton. How did that work out? How did that work out? One of the most beatable candidates ever went up against the most beatable one. And in that unpopularity contest, Donald Trump won. Literally because Donald Trump had less votes. It was literally an unpopularity contest till the end. And New York Times is saying, let's just repeat this. Let's just repeat this. So they're claiming that they're breaking with convention here by repeating the same formula from 2016. That's all this is. They are just repeating the same formula from 2016. Now, maybe you're saying, well, gee, Amy Klobuchar, she's barely showing up in the polls. Barely showing up. But, maybe Liz Warren has really been inspirational as of recent. Well, check out this video. Check it out. Let me get my headphones on here. Here's how inspiring Liz Warren has been as of recent. Here, hold on. Let me pause it. Check this out. This just screams leadership, doesn't it? Look at this video. All right.
Is it disqualifying for a presidential candidate to lie to the
All right, so in case you couldn't make that out, the reporter asked, is it disqualifying for a candidate to lie to the American people?
American public about anything?
I would think that how could the American people want
She doesn't know.
who wants to? I think that we just do our best out there every day. And I hope that's what happens with everyone.
Senator, you're about to spend a lot of time.
Look at our people, first of all. Look at the people around her. Look at how just disinterested and this is what a plummeting campaign looks like, by the way. First of all, look at how long she stalled. First of all, some people are saying that her playing with her nose is a tell. Here, we don't need the sound this time. Her playing with her nose is a tell. They're asking her, is it okay for someone to lie? All right, there she goes. She's playing with her nose. Here we go. Look at how long.
I would think that
It took her 4 seconds to answer that. Hey, is it disqualifying? Should a presidential candidate lie? Is it disqualifying if they lie? Should they lie? And we all know that politicians lie. But instead of being like, yeah, no, that's unacceptable, we have to do better. It takes her 4 seconds to formulate her bullshit answer. Look.
how could the American people want
I'm sorry, it took 6.
someone who wants to?
How could the American people want someone who lies to them? As in, hey, if you vote for a liar, it's your fault. It's your fault, actually. Why did you want this liar? You want us to lie to you. That's what, I don't want to lie to you. You're making me lie to you. I have to lie to you. Liz Warren, this is presidential. On what planet? How is this? Watch the clip of her at a rally where she's giving it and she gets heckled. And she just Google Elizabeth Warren, Ayanna Presley. She gets heckled. Someone yells, okay? And this is at an event where Liz Warren has people all around her holding signs with her name on them. And there is security everywhere for her. And there are fans of hers everywhere. And somebody yells out, and she doesn't know what to do. She stands there like a deer in headlights, just looking off into nothing. And then Ayanna Presley comes up to bail her out. And you can hear her whisper to Ayanna Presley, what do we do? She had no idea what to do. Okay, I've been a comedian for a long time now. You are in a club. If you are a new comedian, you are the MC, which means you go on stage first. And you go on stage to people who are not there to see you. They're there to see the headliner. And it kind of takes them a little bit to get warmed up, to get some drinks in them. And they might be thinking, screw this person. I could be as funny as they are. And you might get heckled. If you can't handle the heckler, you don't get hired again. We have higher standards for opening act comedians than we do for somebody running for president. Liz Warren wasn't able to do something that I was able to do 2 years into comedy. Liz Warren can't do that now as a professional politician. And she doesn't even have an answer. Like, should it be disqualifying if you lie? Gee, well, why would the American people want that? This is what a plummeting campaign looks like. Here, you want to check it out one more time? Here, we don't need the sound. Just look at the nonverbals. Just look at the nonverbals here. That's all you need. Check this out. Look at this. Look at this. Here, look at. She does the nose thing. Now it's not going to play. There we go. Look at this. Look at this. Everybody looks like they're listening to a concession speech. This is going to beat Trump. That'll beat Trump. On what planet will that beat Trump? But the New York Times, hey, New York Times applying the same logic as they applied in 2016, which worked miserably, which completely failed. And maybe you're thinking, you know what? I can't believe Bernie didn't win it. I'm sure he was really trying to. Let's check this out. You know, Bernie, he always, here's what he had to say. Here's some of the stuff Bernie had to say to the New York Times while that endorsement was being courted. Check this out. Look, clearly he wants that endorsement more than anything in the world. Listening to his opening statement, talk about a kiss ass. Listen to this.
Look, I don't tolerate bullshit terribly well.
What an opener. Clearly, he needs their approval. Look, I don't tolerate bullshit very well. That's why I hate being here. Look how pissed off he looks. This is awesome. Look, sarcasm aside, Bernie Sanders cared about getting this endorsement as much as Ricky Gervais cared about getting rebooked on an award show. But let's go on. This is great.
And I come from a different background than a lot of other people who run the country. I'm not good at backslapping. I'm not good at pleasantries. If you have your birthday, I'm not going to call you up to congratulate you so you love me and you write nice things about me.
Endorse me. I don't give a fuck about your birthday. Who does that? Nobody who cares about an endorsement. I mean, hey, I've never seen for instance, where someone sat down at a meeting where they're pitching something and they're like, all right, so bullshit. I'm not a fan. Pleasantries. Also not a fan. Don't even want to be here. Don't give a fuck about your birthday. Buy my show. Nobody who actually wants something to happen does that. This is beautiful, is my point.
That's not what I do. Never have. And I take that as a little bit of a criticism.
Look at how uncomfortable they are.
I've been amazed at how many people respond to, happy birthday. Oh, Bernie, thanks so much for calling. You know, it works. It's just not my style. I try to stay focused on the important issues facing working families in this country, and I fight for them.
So there you go. Bernie didn't get an endorsement, maybe because he doesn't give a shit. And hopefully more people see this video clip than see who the New York Times endorses. Hopefully that's a telling testament to our time, where instead of hearing what a bunch of blowhards in an ivory tower, hearing about who they endorse, instead they say, what did the candidates have to say? And you know what? I'm connecting with this guy who's telling the establishment media, you know what? I don't care about you. You know who I report to? The people out there. The people who have given to my campaign, not the corporations that have given to my campaign, because for Bernie, none of them have. He doesn't take any corporate money. But the people who have gotten out of their houses and into the streets for me, who have given me some of their hard-earned money because they believe in the vision that we have built for this country. Bernie didn't invent these progressive ideas. These ideas have been there. And Bernie just poured gasoline on the fire that was the movement that was already brewing. And he's saying, that's who I care about. I don't care about you guys. Here we go. So check this out. Here's another, for instance. Now, John Cusack shares this video. John Cusack, he's an actor. And the way John Cusack has gotten every role he's ever gotten is he walks into the audition and he goes, I don't give a fuck about your birthday or your approval. Cast me. Boom. That's what he does every single time. John Cusack. I'm sure he doesn't do that. But check this out. All right, here, we'll rewind it so we can get the volume.
What I just said is that in this country, anyone who doesn't understand that there is a lot of, please don't play media data.
All right, he goes, please, you can't really hear it that well, so we'll just skip over it. But he literally says to the media, please don't play media games with me. And he has a history of doing this. Bernie has a history of calling out the media for their gotcha attempts, which is something as a politician you're not supposed to do. You're not supposed to do that as a politician. I mean, we all know what the media does. And there's no politician in office that doesn't know the game that they play. Even Donald Trump. Donald Trump knows the game that the media plays. But you're not supposed to say anything. Why? Because we're all supposed to be buddy-buddy. It's all about access on the journalist side, and it's all about favorable coverage on the politician side. And at the end of the year, they all get together at a big dinner, and they laugh about it. And they laugh about the fact that they're not informing you, the person, on what's actually going on in this country. And they laugh about the fact that because the media is not telling you, the person, about what's going on in this country, politicians can get away with not doing anything for you. And they laugh about that. And you have a couple outsiders like a Bernie Sanders and a Tulsi Gabbard who call the media out for what they actually are. So, and here's another, for instance. So this goes on. There was more to Bernie Sanders talking to the New York Times, where he just made everyone grossly uncomfortable because he doesn't care about their endorsements, and nor should he. All right, so Sean King shares this. Here's more from that video.
Trump has touched a chord in 40 to 44% of the people. What about that issue? It's like Trump is a symptom of a widespread problem.
Yes.
So, I mean, how do you address that?
What is the issue? How did Trump become president? Not everybody, but tens and tens of millions of Americans feel that the political establishment, Republican and Democrat, have failed them. Maybe the New York Times has failed them too.
Boom. He's saying maybe the New York Times has failed them too. Now, of course, they immediately go to racism. They immediately go, we want to try to oversimplify this picture. We want it to just be that it's all about racism, that's the only factor going on here, and that there's no connection. There's no connection between racism and exploitation of the working class. There's no connection between racism and climate change. There's no connection. We just want it to be like, oh, Trump supporters are racist, and that's the issue. That's all. We want to oversimplify it to that point because that makes it easier for us to defend the status quo. That's what the New York Times is trying to do here, but Bernie was ready.
That explains the appeal of racism?
Yeah. People are, in many cases in this country, working longer hours for low wages. You are aware of the fact that in an unprecedented way, life expectancy is actually going down in America because of diseases of despair. People have lost hope, and they are drinking, they're doing drugs, they're committing suicide. And when that condition arises, whether it was the 1930s in Germany, then people are susceptible to the blame game, to say that it is the undocumented people in this country who are the cause of all of our problems. And if we just throw 10 million people out of the country, you're going to have a good job, and you're going to have good health care, and you have good education. That's all we got to do.
That guy's taking
all
notes.
Over the world. Trump did.
That guy's taking notes. He's like, I can't imagine it. I mean, in my break room, no one's talking about this stuff. How insane is it that a politician is explaining this stuff to the media? I mean, it's absolutely, and I know I say this all the time. And those of you who tune into the show every day, I know you get it. But it bears repeating. It's insane that we live in a country where you find yourself ever rooting for a politician over a journalist. But our corporate media, they're part of the corporate elite. They're part of the haves. They're part of the people who want to prevent you from getting your fair slice of the pie. That's what the corporate media is. It is a corrupt institution that in other countries isn't even legal and shouldn't be legal in this one. Our media structure, or lack thereof rather, should not be legal. The idea that in a democratic experiment, you just hand news and information over to corporate elites where they can do whatever they want completely unchecked. It's absolutely beyond backwards. So this guy's taking notes. These are all ideas that have been recited for years and years and years. This is nothing new. That, when you're facing economic disparity, sometimes you listen to somebody who's scapegoating a group of people for no reason. And that people took a chance on this snake oil salesman who was Donald Trump because nobody was offering them anything. So they took a chance on this guy who was making this bogus promise of jobs, who was blaming immigrants for all of our problems. They took a chance on this guy.
Didn't invent demagoguery. It's an age-old weapon, and you take a minority and you demonize that minority and you blame that minority and you take the despair and the anger and the frustration that people are feeling and you say that's the cause of your problem.
So that's the guy that they didn't endorse. That guy right there. That's the guy that they didn't endorse. But they did endorse Amy Klobuchar, who told a college kid to his face that he was going to suffer from unbearable amounts of debt if he wanted to get an education, and she wasn't going to do anything about it. They endorsed Elizabeth Warren, who right now her campaign is plummeting because she makes things up about what happens in a private conversation. And her mask has been taken off big time. Even people who used to stand behind her. Listen to Michael Moore. Jimmy has talked about this as well on the Jimmy Dore show. In fact, that's how I initially heard about it. But Michael Moore has a podcast about Liz Warren where he talks about it. And what I appreciate about it is that he gives it from his perspective. He doesn't give it from an outsider perspective. He's not pretending he's some outsider. He acknowledges the fact that, yeah, I'm in many ways an insider now when it comes to the political machine. I've worked with Bernie Sanders. I've worked with Liz Warren. And he points out the fact that he has given Liz Warren the benefit of the doubt time and time again. And he's wondering why. He's wondering, why did I give her the benefit of the doubt when she lied about being Native American and put it on an application to take that away from somebody else? And then when her DNA test came back, she still doubled down on it. Why did I? And he just named all these for instances. You know, she said her dad was a janitor. Well, he wasn't a janitor. And it's all these little things, but then they keep adding up, and you keep thinking, why is this person being dishonest about who they are and about where they're at? And how can we trust them, especially when they flip-flop on policy every week? Every week. Does Liz Warren support Medicare for all? Flip a coin. Who knows? Who knows? There could be a workout regimen where you do another sit-up every time Liz Warren changes her mind about a policy. And you will have chiseled abs in a couple weeks. In fact, you know what? I'm going to try it. I want to lose a little bit of weight for my wedding that's coming up. I'm going to try that. Every time Liz Warren waffles on a policy position, I'll do another set of sit-ups. And I'll tell you guys how it works out. But that's who the New York Times endorses. Not that guy. Not that guy who called them out on how they're failing the American people. So there you have it. The New York Times did not endorse Bernie Sanders. And why would you endorse the guy who's calling you out on your failures to the American people? Why would you do that? Guess it makes sense. And it shows that you shouldn't care who the New York Times endorses. Not now, not ever. They actually don't have the best track record. They endorsed Hillary in the 08 primary. They endorsed McCain in the 08 primary. They endorsed Al Gore. They don't have the world's greatest track record.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and